evidence of that.
And you don't know if that practice was that particular, what you're talking about was advocated by Joanne, correct?
There's no question in the report that lends itself to that.
All right. I mean, what I see is she was advocating for students. You don't see that. You don't see that what the practice that she was advocating was best for the students to help them score better later on and have the ability to get promised scholarships. You think it was just she was advocating as a means for someone else to get money?
I did not say that.
Okay, so
I actually said
you don't see this as being a good practice for the students themselves.
I do not see dropping students' grades for accountability and GPA a good practice for anybody.
I'll agree with that.
Okay.
I'll agree.
We're on the same
I'll
page.
agree with that statement. But you also are not aware because she did not tell you that they were dropping those grades completely. They would be transferred over into something else, correct? They would not. The difference is what the point I'm trying to get at. The difference is by the time they complete the course, if they withdrew mid-term, they would not end up with a D, right? Correct, from Math 1. If they had a D, completed it, if they withdrew at the middle of the year, they did not have a D come the end of the semester, end of the year, right?
For Math 1.
All right. So if they transferred into another class, then what shows up on their transcript? What credit do they get for that?
They should have had the grade, the 9 weeks grade, or the grade from the semester for that Math 1. And then if they transferred to another class, they should have had the 3rd and 4th 9 weeks grades for those classes.
Okay. But they would not end up with any credit in the end, no high school credit whatsoever for Math 1, correct? Because they didn't complete it, right?
They would have a half credit or have no half credit for Math 1. So let me take your situation here. You're saying let's say they had an F, they would have an F at the semester for Math 1. If they had a D or a C, they would have a half credit for Math 1 withdrawn, and they would take the second half of the Math 1 course at the high school for the second half of that credit. So the first half should have shown either they failed the class or they had a half credit and they had a C or a D, and that should have been averaged into their GPA.
What if they withdrew before the semester was over?
If they withdrew before the end, before
The end
the
of
end
the
of the
first
first
semester.
9 weeks, before the first 9 weeks, they would have no grade because you can withdraw in the first 9 weeks.
What about if they're
And they should have transferred to another class and had a grade for that class.
all right? What if they withdraw in the second 9 weeks?
Then they should have had a first 9 weeks grade calculated into their GPA.
But again, Joanna had nothing to do with how those grades were calculated, who got what, or anything else, correct?
Joanna had no responsibility for putting grades in.
So really, she's not, when you cite this school state policy, she's not violated that in any way, right?
She has violated that. She gave guidance. I clearly outlined that in this letter.
How did she violate it?
She challenged, she is the one that issued. There's no other math coach in the county. There's nobody that holds the authority or the status that Joanna Burke-Kinderman holds in this county. She gave the directive guidance, and that guidance led to them continuing this practice. When the practice was challenged, she challenged the people that was challenging her practice. When I issued a memo, she challenged that memo. So that is her role in this, as I outlined in this.
Which memo did she challenge?
She challenged that at the end of the 9 weeks, the grade is finalized. At the end of the second 9 weeks, the grade is finalized. To say that we will go to the end of the year without these grades being transcribed.
I thought we made a distinction between when grades are recorded at the end of 9 weeks and when grades are transcribed for your high school transcripts are at the end of the year. Did we not? Okay.
I said that grades being transcribed at the high school happens at the semester and at the end of the year. And that's been a memo that was issued by Principal Rowley in 2023. And that was a common practice.
You're saying they didn't follow, right?
I'm saying that I was notified they were not following that.
The, but really, this state policy, from what you're telling me, is you can be in line with it. You can actually take math one and be in line with it as long as those grades are recorded, right?
Correct.
All right. So that's math one. Math field day. What was your issue with the math field day?
My issue with Math Field Day is that we had just had a major audit at the high school, and I was trying to correct procurement procedures and how that we spend money and making sure we're spending money appropriately. I got a large PO for 56 student Math Field Day shirts. They weren't laid out. Usually they should be laid out on how many shirts are students, who's getting these shirts, and how they're being paid for. So I simply said to my executive secretary, can you send an email and see if all these are student shirts? Because we cannot purchase uniforms for employees from public funds. It's not allowed. So my secretary sent that email regarding the purchasing of the shirts. Miss Burke Kinderman become uncooperative, aggressive.
You already said she sent you an email and said.
Objection, she is testifying, and he just interrupted her while she's trying to testify.
She just keeps going on. You testified earlier that she
Can she
emailed
finish
saying, what
her
did they do in
testimony?
Braxton County? Isn't that what you said? What did they do in Braxton?
I was getting to that.
Okay, all right. And so,
Let's just allow her to answer the question.
so my question is that out of these 56 teachers, 50 of them were for students. Is that correct?
You're asking me to recall a number off the top of my head. I do not believe that 50 of them was for students.
Okay.
50,
Well,
not 50, there were not 50 Math Field Day participants.
there was a certain number of them that were for students, correct?
Yes,
All right, and then she asked whether or not the teachers who were going with the students could have T-shirts too. Is that correct?
correct.
All right. And when you responded no, that it was illegal to buy them shirts, is it illegal to buy them shirts for this?
It is not illegal for them to pay for their own shirts and purchase it. We do not purchase
What?
staff shirts.
I'm asking, is it illegal for a Board of Education to buy teacher shirts to go to these things?
I consulted Dave McClure at the time, and he said that should not happen. We didn't use the word
Can't
illegal or not
Can't
illegal.
interview Dave.
No, you cannot.
So,
I was advised by our treasurer mentor,
all right,
we cannot do that.
but whether it is or whether it isn't, she asked if she could buy them herself, that was a problem, correct?
Correct.
And she bought them herself for them, right?
Okay.
So did anybody tell the investigator that she actually bought them or that? Because he seems to think that those shirts were still bought by the school, is the way he testified.
I'm not responsible for what you perceive his testimony to be. I told her that she couldn't buy staff shirts based on the information I received from Dave McClure.
All right,
If she purchased those shirts, then that's fine.
that's fine, right? So there's really no problem with that, other than she was trying to get clarification, because she doesn't have the right to buy stuff, correct? She doesn't have that authority.
You filled out the requisition.
Well, I mean, you can fill out the requisition, but you can't prove it. That has to go through this office, right?
It has to go through the various channels, Jeff.
All right. So all she did was fill out a requisition, and then you all declined buying them for the adults. And she did, correct?
I don't have any evidence that she did or did not buy the shirts.
Does that, the fact that she did that, asked about it, sent in a requisition, how does that violate? I don't get even why that's in your letter.
I would like the opportunity to pull that email up and read her response. And the tone of that response, the
I-
combative nature of that response.
Man, I tell you what, texting and emailing for me, I really get in a lot of trouble because I'm pretty sure of how I do it. And truthfully, I get accused of tones that I really don't have most of the time. Most of the time, my tone when I'm giving it to you, but I'd like to know how did you really get a tone from an email? To me, it's kind of like, well, you agree that your investigator, he came to a lot of conclusions on what people were saying without that being in the report. Are you doing the same thing?
No, sir.
Oh. But as far as math field day goes, she violated no law, right?
Correct.
She violated no policy.
Well, she attempted to when she submitted the requisition and the PO. It was avoided. It was deterred, so no, she did not do it.
Well, you'll do anything you can to get out, won't you?
No,
She violated no rule, right?
no rule regarding,
I mean, did you put out an order, a directive or anything that
you can't spend public money to buy employee uniforms?
she didn't violate that, right?
She did not.
All right. And the same is true about math one. She's not guilty of any crime there, right?
I'm gonna object, this is not a criminal trial.
Yeah,
Objection what?
This is not a criminal trial. You said she's not guilty of any crime there, is she?
Well, the reason why I asked all that, because the last hearing, you said it was mandatory to have her removed from the school system and placed on this leave of absence because, one, she was dangerous to students, correct?
I said, I think I referred to Wall and I'm going to refer back to it again.
Should have started nice.
I refer to 18A-2-8. And when an employee is under investigation and the welfare of students or the learning environment or other students are being, an investigation is being conducted, then shall be suspended, placed on administrative leave, or reassigned to duties which do not involve direct interaction with pupils. She had direct interaction with pupils and she had direct interaction with the investigation. So therefore, when she was put on administrative leave, that was because of the investigation, per law. Shall, is what the law says.
I mean, you didn't want her talking to people that were going to be investigated, and giving statements and things like that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Couldn't you just told her that?
I did tell her that.
I mean, couldn't you have told her that without putting her on administrative leave?
It says shall.
I think if they're hurting the learning environment, is that what it says? Educational environment or danger to the student?
I think it is hurting the learning environments.
Now, prior to even January 27th or January 22nd of 2016, as the math coach, Joanna sent you several emails. Is that correct?
I get a lot of emails. So
I
would
understand
assume and she sends a lot of emails. So I would assume I got some emails from Ms. Burke-Kinderman.
But at one point in time that you said that she needed to deal direct with her direct supervisor. Is that correct?
That's correct because we're following chain of command. That's an implementation thing in the organization.
And well, I understand that you just approved a chain of command, put it out there. So who's the top, who's the bottom, right?
I clarified that. Yeah.
Before you put that out there, was there a definite chain of command as to who her boss was?
Yes, it just wasn't memorialized in writing.
Okay. So I got an attorney buddy of mine. He does title work and everything. He said if it's not right, it didn't happen.
Objection to relevance.
So who did you tell that to? Who did you tell her who her immediate supervisor was?
We had several meetings with Ms. Burns and Ms. Burke-Kinderman and myself
When? I'm just saying
at the
when.
beginning of the year.
When?
At the
Beginning
beginning.
of the year?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
All right, so the email that she sent out January 21st of 2026 that went to, who all did it go to?
Principal and counselors instead.
Sorry.
Stuff.
Page 84. I'll wait for Sam to come back.
No, that one's still not. Dig it a little bit more. Oh, you are talking about, yeah. I'm sorry. This was because somebody else asked me a question. I didn't include that. I could get that.
Sorry, Mike, what page did you say?
Page 84. I think in your earlier testimony, you made it pretty clear that this email was not sent to you. You even said, correct? Isn't that what you said?
Yes,
You even said that you wouldn't even have found out about it if these people hadn't told you, correct?
correct.
Who does Stephanie Burns answer to?
Me,
Okay, that's on your chain of command.
yes.
She next.
Mhm.
And this email was directed to Stephanie Burns, right?
Correct,
To Melissa Hildos, Julie Brown, Charlie Hughes, and copied with the principals, Nebraska Scotchy and Melissa Jordan. Is that correct?
that's correct.
All right. And at this point in time, you'd already told Joanna Burke Kinderman that she needed to direct all this to her immediate supervisor. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So including you on that, would she have been in violation of following your prior order if she included you on it or not?
There's no violation.
There's not?
So she did, if you're asking, did she follow chain of command? Yes, she did.
Well, that's what you instructed her to do. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
All right. So why are you trying to make a point here that the board should consider this some big reason why you weren't considered doing this if she was following the chain of command as you directed?
I'm not making a big
All right.
issue out of that.
All right. Maybe I'm taking your testimony wrong. In your determination letter,
Mhm.
you quote this email a lot, right?
What page are we referring to?
Page 84,
I mean, in my determination letter, what page are you referring
page
to?
8. I mean, it's a long one, but you ought to know which one it was. I think it was page 2 or page 3.
Okay, I'm there.
I mean, you quote this email, correct?
That's correct.
Really, that's not correct, right? You don't quote this email.
I say your own communication demonstrates your understanding of the practice and its intended effect. On January 21st, you wrote, "I'd like to confirm that we not transcribe grades until the end of the year for this course. That's what we have done in the past, which allowed students to withdraw from high school credit and transcription all the way into the spring." And then down here it says, "I'd like to confirm that we will not transcribe grades until the end of the year for this course. That's what we have done in the past, which allows students to withdraw from the high school credit and transcription of grades all the way into spring."
How does it end? The email.
This way, they can push themselves without hurting their
No, ma'am, no, ma'am, that's not what I'm asking. The
I'm
email,
sorry.
how does the email end?
Principals Missy and Stephanie, is this still the case? Is that what you're asking me to read?
Is that a question? Has a question mark on it.
Mhm.
You don't put that in your letter of determination, correct?
It is not there.
That's because in your opinion, she's not asking question. Right?
Correct.
Even if other people have asked her, what are we doing? And so she puts this out there. You don't think she's asking question.
I think we have established that Miss Burt Kinderman was relied upon for guidance and direction.
I think that's what you're presenting. I don't think you're proving anything.
Okay.
Public action, now we're continuing to just argue with the witness. That's all commentary. Those are not questions. Those are comments and they're argumentative. They're inappropriate. Move on.
I understand. So the other emails at the beginning of the year, do you remember that there was emails that Joanna had written to you in regards to annual analysis of math scores? And actually, you acknowledged that the math was a success. Thank you for your thoughtful analysis. Do you remember that in July? Right
If
after.
you're asking me to remember over a year ago and
I
email,
sure am.
well, I would need time to review my email.
Okay.
Or at least have a copy of the email you're referring to review.
Do you remember telling the board at one point in time that the math scores at the high school were awful?
I remember presenting to the board that the high school math schools were in the red.
And actually you told them that they were down with English language and arts. Is that correct?
They were slightly down.
Okay. So truthfully, at that time, our scores at the high school, we were fourth in the state. You realize that, right?
Mr. Doss, this hasn't been presented at all. You can't.
Well,
Question.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I understand that, but
You can present it in your case, but not cross-examine.
then I will reserve my right to call her back as a witness. Thank you. So without the 24-page report, we don't know what the result of Mr. Kingery's investigation was back in March of 26, correct? I mean, you went over earlier that first came the letter where you put her on leave from February 12th. Then you later gave her an opportunity to have a hearing to determine whether or not your actions were arbitrary and capricious, which happened March 24th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then I believe March 30th, then you issued a new letter to her saying now the scope of your investigation was going to be broadened and would take in, if I remember right, basically everything to do with her job description. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say that's everything to do with her job description. I would outline what I've stated in the letter. Those were the expansions in those areas.
It was pretty
Would you
broad.
like for me to read that for you?
Yeah, you got the letter. It's
The
broad.
investigation now includes, but is not limited to, the following areas: concerns regarding interaction and communication with district personnel relating to student grading, course placement, academic records, and related instructional practices; issues relating to compliance with district policies, procedures, and administrative directives, including matters arising following administrative guidance concerning grading and transcription practices; matters relating to interaction with district personnel concerning individual student grades and academic outcomes; matters related to district purchasing practices and compliance with applicable procedures; and matters relating to the collection, reporting, and the use of student performance data in connection with instructional programs, initiatives, and external partnerships. Would you like for me to review what her job description said?
No,
Because I'm not sure all those things are in her job description.
Oh, it's broad. I grant you that. I mean, so after he gave you a 24-page report, then you decided to broaden the investigation. Was that because there wasn't nothing in the 24-page report? And you needed to find something else? Or was there something in the 24-page report that gave you further reason to have her investigated?
So after he completed the first round of investigations, statements that were made by the people that were interviewed in that investigation led to needing to talk to other people to verify the statements that were made. It had nothing to do with looking for something else. It had to do with clarity and fidelity to law and policy and validating of what was said. Additional people were interviewed after that.
Okay. And after they were interviewed, then the report turns into a 46-page report, correct?
Correct?
And after what would have been 4 months of investigation, what you came up with is basically 2 emails. Am I right? Or is it 3? You're saying that from the tenor of her email back in 2025, when she said, we don't really have to pay attention to consultants, they're just consultants. That's one email, correct? Then there was the email that she sent in January. Right? Was there a third one? So really, what you're admonishing her for, in your eye, is that she's been advocating a grading system, and that grading system was done incorrectly. Is that correct?
What I have issued is in this letter, and I issued very clearly that we looked at math grade transcription, withdrawal, and academic record practices, and I outlined that. I said math grade, then I go on to clarify with the other sections, GPA and scholarship consideration, resistance to corrective guidance and compliance efforts, resistance failure to support administrative direction regarding grading, grades, and transcription. I issue a letter that has all those things in. And I've read that and presented that.
But now, if you want to read what her duties are, that's fine with me, because we've already read them. I mean, I already know them. But in what she's doing as a math coach directly in support of her duties or her job description or not?
Giving guidance on math grade transcription, withdrawal, and academic record practices, no. Giving guidance on GPA and scholarship consideration, no. Good. Let's drop this to their GPA. So no, these things are not in her job
Well, the
description.
scholarship stuff, isn't she just telling people that you will have a better chance of getting a scholarship if you do it this way and you're successful? And if you're not, you still have the chance to get it if you withdraw and you're successful later on. Isn't that all she's saying?
I'm not Ms. Burke-Kinderman. I know what the evidence presented.
I understand what it's saying, but you're making it sound like she's telling people you will definitely get the promised scholarship if you do this. I don't get what you're getting at. Believe me, I don't.
Mhm.
But what I see, and you tell me whether you see it or you don't, that she's advocating for students, the best system for that student to have the best chance to get scholarships, to advance, to go to college, to do whatever the hell they're going to do from now on out. She's advocating for those kids. You don't get that?
She's advocating for an inequitable system for students by deleting students and not holding them accountable for grades.
Where did she say that she's advocating for deleting any grades whatsoever?
Well, let me refer back to that.
I think what you're referring to is what the investigator's saying. You're not referring to her statement. Find it in her.
I'm gonna object. I mean, it's just an ongoing barrage of arguing with the witness. An attorney's role is to ask questions and let the witness answer. Every series of questions is an argument with the witness, interjecting what he thinks the case is about, interjecting what he sees, what he perceives the evidence. Save all that for a closing argument. This witness should have to answer questions and not sit here and be put in a position of arguing with an attorney who should know better, to be honest with you.
Madam President, we have 5 minute break.
Yes. Yes, we'll come back at 2:23. 2:23.
Mr. Murray.
Yes.
Mine.
So far, yeah.
And that's why he went involved.
What about your?
Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time, but I do reserve the right to be called.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have no redirect questions, so, you know, the administration, I believe I've moved the admission of all of our exhibits at this point, and so the administration, we rest our case.
All right. And now it's your opportunity.
Joanna Burke, Henry.
Do I go here, stay
No,
here?
you
Where do I
go
go?
ahead.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name. Full name.
Joanna Burt Kinderman.
Is it all right? I just call you Joanna?
Yes, please.
All right. Joanna, are you employed?
Yes,
Who are you employed by?
the Pocahontas County Board of Education.
And what do you do for Pocahontas County Board of Education?
I'm a math instructional coach for K-12.
And how long have you held that position?
I've been employed as a math instructional coach for K-12 since 2017. Prior to that, I did work for Pocahontas County Schools with a variety of different job titles as well.
It was 6 to 12 then, right?
6 through 12 before that. I was a technology media specialist and a math teacher. Back to 2009.
And you have kids in the Pocahontas County school system?
Very proud to say I do.
Now just one, right?
One graduated, yes, sir.
All right. In your job as a math instructor, math coach, have you been received any awards or accreditations?
I don't think I was due them. I'd like to rephrase it. I think our program and our teachers here collectively in Pocahontas County have received some recognition, inclusive of just an acknowledgement from Ed Week that we were doing things a little differently. Our work here was written up as part of how to support struggling students in early algebra foundational concepts. That was a U.S. Department of Education study a while back. And I've received a few other recognitions, but I accept them on behalf of the teachers here who work in collaboration together.
Last one you received, what, back in April, just while you were on leave of absence, is that correct?
In March, yes, sir.
March? Okay. And what was it for?
It's called the Chair Award, and it's for a person once a year who actually got a chair. Josh isn't allowed to sit in it. It's for the person who's contributed to math education in West Virginia annually. Very honored and humbled to receive that. Yeah.
What did you do yesterday?
Yesterday, I shared on behalf of a project that is built on, in part, on successes here in Pocahontas County. Spoke to the joint sessions of House and Senate Education Committee.
Congratulations. This partnership thing that you have, what is it?
So this is totally distinct from Pocahontas County Schools. I am employed by Pocahontas County Schools in a half-time capacity. So I work for the school system half-time. In the other half of my job, I've worked on a variety of projects, but most recently, and the one I'm the most proud of, is called Mountaineer Mathematics Master Teachers. And it's an initiative that was initially funded by the Department of Education here in West Virginia, together with the National Science Foundation, and I believe it's now 32 districts who've partnered with us over the last 6 years. The idea of this is that we should trust teachers as instructional leaders when their consensus and follow their consensus. So it's a way of getting better at teaching math through working together to define what bothers us and to kind of invent towards doing better along a whole series of metrics, inclusive of student experience in math class, This initiative has come a long way in the last 6 years, but the foundation of it is built on work that we did here in Pocahontas County, and for that I'm very proud. Pocahontas County Schools is not a partner in that project this year, nor were they last year.
Yeah, what is a math coach? What does a math coach do?
That's a hard question because those asks shift as my supervisors have shifted over the years. So I had kind of one road 3 superintendents ago that shifted with our prior superintendent and appear to have shifted again with this superintendent. So it's a little hard to put your finger on, but most of my time is spent when teachers invite me into their classrooms and tell me what they'd like to work on together. So I only once in my career have I been mandated to go visit someone by an administrator, and I push back against that at all costs because I don't find that effective. I have days when I'm assigned to different schools and I ask people who'd like to book me. And when I come in and meet with that teacher, they direct me on what they want to get better at, what they want to see me do, or what they want to do together. But aside from that, historically, I've also been involved in every conversation about mathematics in this county, really that's happened. So it's kind of hard to, but most of my supervisors have wanted to talk things through before we decide on policy.
I mean, you heard me earlier read the duties that you have, right? And some of that is communicating with the administrators and teachers and whatnot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
As a part of that, was there a time period before in the past where you were part of a group that dealt with issues, math or even other issues?
So a few superintendents ago, I was required to be at all principal meetings, and I was on that principal administrator listserv and had very regular meetings with directors of federal programs, directors of curriculum instruction, and superintendents. Just idea sessions. I mean, I've never been in a decision-making capacity, but I've always, until this year, been invited, well, in the second half of last year. Sorry, this year I'm referencing school year 25-26, the end of school year 24-25. I was removed from those conversations.
Wow.
I can't answer that. We would have to ask the past superintendent why she made that decision.
And who was that?
Lynn Bostick.
So correct me if I'm wrong, before, was it like a group email, group text that you, and memos went out and meetings? Were you involved in all that?
Oh, well, if I have to, the problem is there have been many phases of this work. There was a period of time when our secondary math folks met together regularly, but that's been a while ago now. I would say in the last 4 to 5 years, primarily it's just being asked to come to meetings with a superintendent or director of instruction, or actually sitting at administrators meetings and being asked questions. Oftentimes, actually annually, I could probably look this up and be more specific, but I was asked to train administrators on different things like walkthroughs, on look-fors. What does effective math instruction look for? How do you give a teacher good feedback? Those sorts of things.
So in the last year and a half, you weren't included in those meetings.
That's correct.
So at the beginning of last year, it's your understanding that this practice that was carried on started years ago, and you don't even know who started this practice, correct?
So I will say that I've had some time to dig through records in the time that I've not been able to go work with math teachers and math students. And this was longer than the switch from Access email to K-12 email. I do know that when I started teaching math here, which was in 2009, and forgive me, but I had pregnancy brain. That was right before Willow was born. Students were taking 2 distinct math classes. So if that's what you mean by the practice of taking 2 distinct math classes, then I'd like to establish that, because that practice of taking 2 separate math classes is the thing that those consultants challenge. So that's been a long-standing tradition here. In terms of when did we allow students to transfer out of that Math 1 or Algebra 1 class if they weren't successful, I can't answer that, but it's been around as long as I have.
Was there any one particular individual that started that? You know, who that may have been?
So I had a long conversation with this investigator that I think was both um, captured in a misleading way. So I definitely want to share that and much for me. So I appreciate the opportunity to correct the record in terms of what I shared with this investigator. This investigator, Mr. Rogers, was present, so he could corroborate this. Absolutely grilled me as if I was a terrorist or something on the same question over and over and over again, saying, why would you ask a question about a policy? And I continued to say, because it wasn't clear, people were asking me and no one was answering emails, and everybody in this system is scared to ask a question at this point. This policy goes way back to watching some students lose opportunities because they didn't understand math. So we held them in an honors class in 8th grade. We made them finish the year. They passed by the skin of their teeth, and then they failed in subsequent math classes in 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade to truly understand the material. And so we changed our policy collectively. And I've got to be honest, it's so long ago that I don't remember which players were in that conversation. But I can say that every 4 to 5 years, as we select new textbooks, the conversation came up again, was well explained to administrators, and those administrators re-ratified our policies here. So all I can say is that taking 2 classes goes back that far, and the opportunity to transfer from a class that is not suiting your child into a class that is, I understand that that happens in middle and high school across the ages. I mean, I can't say ever a time that I'm aware of that a student and their parent wasn't allowed to say, this class isn't a good fit for me. Can we please transfer classes? But I'm not responsible for those things. I'm not in the room when that happens. And I can't answer for those things. I'm not sure.
So you weren't clear as to what happened with grades being reported or grades being transferred. Is that correct?
So I would say, sort of. I would say I'm never in the room when someone decides, well, what happens to the 3 quiz grades we already got when this student and their parents decide that this isn't a good fit. I have no idea what happens on that end of things. But I will say that I know that we do try to make a big effort. And again, this comes from years ago, parents saying, you never told me how important this would be. We try to make a big effort to over communicate with parents. And there are times and have been instances, and I'm going to really try to not disparage anybody in this interview, even though I feel like I'm being very unfairly singled out and targeted. There have been times when we've had some teachers who were less than willing to talk to a parent who's upset. And so I wanted to solidify, I don't care how upsetting it is that this child's not doing as well as we hope they would do. You have to talk to that parent and make sure that they're aware of the consequences when you're 13 years old of taking a class that can have profound influence on whether or not you understand enough mathematics in your subsequent math classes to have a shot at succeeding.
You had nothing to do with transcribing grades
No, sir, I don't have any idea how or when that happened.
or recording grades.
No, sir.
So right before February 12th, let's go back to the January 21st email when you sent out the email to Stephanie Burns, all those people included the 2 principals. By that time, you were told that you had to deal directly with your immediate supervisor, which is Stephanie Burns. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Prior to that time, you had sent several emails to Dr. Williams. Is that correct? On numerous subjects.
That's correct.
And would you say that those majority of the time those emails would go unanswered?
I don't know if I could say quantitatively, you're talking to a math nerd here, a majority, but there was a substantive number of emails that remained unanswered.
By Dr. Williams.
That's correct.
So in this particular situation, you specifically responded to Ms. Burns and the other people that were involved after you talked to Ms. Burns. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'd like to back up a little further and say that we were in the middle of lots of snow days. And the culture in the system was one of real fear. And so there were lots of people that were scared at that time and expressing to me that they were scared of asking direct questions. And I said, I'm not scared to do that. I'm happy to do that. And I asked my direct supervisor in a meeting that we had if she had clarity on what we should do there. And she said, will you please write that to me in an email? And then we'll get everybody on the same page. That email was not originated in content by me for no reason. It came on the heels of lots of emails that were coming in my directions and lots of questions that were coming in my direction saying, we're not really sure what the situation is here, because as Dr. Williams discussed, in 23-24 and 24-25, grades for the high school courses were transcribed at the semester. I was told, but I don't know this, that the 8th graders' grades didn't get transcribed until the end of the year. So I wrote the email and yes, did share again, here's why we do this, and ended it with a question. This happened on the heels of being super busy, juggling a lot of other things, and I will agree that I could have taken a longer time to write a longer email. I was trying to get to the point.
So tone doesn't come through in your emails like does mine either, right?
No, particularly because while I have an office, I spend most of my time in schools. And so as anyone who could attest who's worked with me, oftentimes I don't have a desk or a place to sit down and be chill. And so I'm just firing off an email real quick in the middle of playing with math manipulatives with a kid. And so I think brevity is definitely the tone of my emails, and I can see absolutely how that comes across as short.
So following on that email, you received an email from Dr. Williams, is that correct?
No, no one ever answered my email. I wrote a question and never got a response from anybody.
Well, the next email that you got from Dr. Williams requested what?
On, I believe, February 6th, I should look at these dates may I have just a moment, make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing here. Both have low blood sugar and I want to make sure that my dates are accurate. Yeah, February 6th, Dr. Williams asked me to join her for a meeting. I was actually expecting this email because she had asked me to research what Doddridge County did for mathematics. She wanted me to look into any school that did better than us in high school math. And there were 3 counties last year. And so she asked me to look into that. I had prepared a report for her. She asked me to come in and then advised that I could have a representative. And when she said that, obviously that gave me a little cause for alarm. And I asked her what the meeting was related to. And she said it's related to your conduct matters and the review of data accuracy and reporting processes. So I came to that meeting assuming that we were going to talk about a pretty spirited debate that we'd gotten into about whether our high school math program was successful or not, which then led her to ask me to look into Doddridge County. So those things were all related. They were spirited and they were private because I really appreciate local control. And at no point did I take those emails until today into a larger conversation.
So when you came to the meeting, what did you find out?
So at that meeting, Dr. Williams was there. A representative from the Department of Education was there, which was deeply concerning to me. And Ms. Tuckwiller was there, just being an attorney. And I do have to say, I really appreciated the balance of that meeting, but we didn't talk about anything at that meeting related to my conduct or the review of data accuracy and reporting processes. I was asked about why Math 1 in 8th grade worked the way it did, what the historical kind of context of that was, and I was asked a ton of questions about Math Field Day and the purchase of t-shirts. I explained to all of those folks that both of those issues were standing practice and procedures for at least a decade, if not longer. And that I would be happy to look into anything. If they gave me a little more specific direction, I could provide them evidence of all of that. They told me no, they were going to do their own investigation. I didn't need to do my own investigation. And it all seemed very reasonable until it abruptly ended. And I was told to hand them my keys and they would escort me to my office to get my things, and that I wasn't to use email. I wasn't to communicate with anybody. for any reason, that was backtracked and an attorney there said, you absolutely can forward things to your attorney or to yourself, but you're not to reply to anyone in school business. So it's quite a shock. I don't think I've ever even, I told my girls I've worked since I was 13. I don't think I've ever even been in trouble at work before.
When did you get the letter? Did you get the letter that day too?
I got the letter via email that same day.
When the letter's talking about policies and procedures for Math 1, did you have any idea what she thought that you had done wrong
No, I absolutely didn't.
with the math field day? I was going to question policies and procedures. Did you have any idea about what you may have done wrong there?
Well, I thought there would be something that I actually had done wrong, but I didn't know what it was. I did know that she was very upset in the meeting about getting a follow-up question about t-shirts for staff. So we spent a lot of time talking about those 6 t-shirts for staff. And I did get clarity that it was fine for me to personally purchase those t-shirts. But again, we've been purchasing team t-shirts that all match for each other for at least a decade, if not longer.
So in the end though, you bought the t-shirts,
The
right?
teacher t-shirts, yes. And I got that in writing that I'm allowed to do that.
So when we came here before, for the last hearing, you were seeking answers as to what exactly you were being investigated in regards to Math 1. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. At every point along this, I've asked follow-up questions. I think this whole thing could have been resolved really quickly with an answer to an email, or just a response about exactly what do you believe my role is in violating any policy. I think I could have cleared this up very, very quickly and been back to work.
The when you're talking about policy, or you know that there's no written policy by the county on how to handle the Math 1 prior to January 27th. Is that correct?
So I think that due to my role, and I think maybe I'm not careful enough with the distinction between the word policy and the word practice. And I count on my administrators to direct me in terms of what's okay in terms of policy. And that's why I asked both those questions. I do know that a representative from WVDE let me know in school year 24-25 that we were overdue to submit to them how our 8th grade math advancement policy should work. And I had a very long meeting with Julie Dunlap. And during that meeting, she had to take a call and she directed that I write an email sort of writing out what our policy procedure, I might be using that wrong, but what it was going to be, and to copy her so that we were all on the same page. And I did that. And then at some point, I would assume that someone from the central office would have submitted our plan to the state. And I would assume that that would then be called a policy of this body, that we have a policy that the way students can advance in 8th grade is to double up in 8th grade. Now, there are lots of reasons that we choose that policy instead of integrating those standards into one really dense course. But the policy itself is just, this is the way that you can advance in mathematics in 8th grade.
And she was interviewed by the investigator, right? She had a statement in here.
I only found that out today because no one would ever tell me what anybody said or what exactly their concern was all the way to that June 5th determination, which you were both at. And again, felt even the attorney of Dr. Williams here shared never had any experience of someone not knowing what it is they were supposed to do wrong. Like he actually said that in that hearing. I said, well, that's me. I am the first example of that. I have no idea what you're talking about. And in that hearing, I said, if you would just tell me exactly what you're concerned about, I'm a nerd. I keep a paper trail of everything and I can look up emails all the way back to when we had access. So at least for a decade. And I can provide you anything you want if you'll just tell me exactly what it is you're concerned with. And they would just say, we're not going to do that. This has to do with matters related to Math 1. Are you aware that there are policies? Sure, I'm aware that there are policies for everything. Which exact policy do you think I violated? And we didn't get an answer to that.
Never would.
Well, we still don't.
So, well, even today,
I don't believe I still have heard anybody say to me which policy they believe I violated.
they're making it a big point that I guess, you have the ability to make principals and teachers do your bidding and calling by bullying them. Is that, do you have any answers for that?
I will say it's incredibly upsetting. This has already came with such a great personal, local, and beyond local stigma. The fact that I've just been out of work for this long and investigated on all these things that ostensibly make school an unsafe place to be. But I asked even my colleagues who said, can we please come testify on your behalf, that they not do so right now, because this is a retaliatory culture. And I don't want to put anybody else on a chopping block right now. But I will say that I would be incredibly surprised if we can hear in the actual recordings of teachers that I work with that they feel bullied by me.
Why do you think that this is a retaliatory thing towards you?
I've had a lot of time to think about that as well. And the evidence would suggest that this began to be adversarial when I met privately with Dr. Williams with concerns from teachers and parents that were shared with me, and my own concerns that she was kind of describing our high school math scores as concerning and problematic and needing to be a real focus, and refusing to share that we, relative to the state, do very well in high school math. And it's one of the things that we're really proud of and have worked very, very hard on. And that was sort of those, I would go so far as to say that those were arguments behind closed doors.
But how did the parents find out about what Dr. Williams was saying about the math program at the high school?
Oh, because it's covered in the press. I mean, they're quotes. It's in the Pocahontas Times on the radio.
When the Pocahontas Times was reporting about the Board of Education?
Yeah. So these were all in public meetings.
So you're saying that in a public meeting, Dr. Williams was telling our board that math program at the high school was awful?
I don't know that she would have used the word awful, but she was characterizing it as really needing to have intensive focus, and needing to, and being of great concern.
And so how did you address that with her?
I asked for a private meeting, and reminded her that I'd shared in July a full analysis. I really nerd out on math scores, a full analysis with her of our progress at every grade level on our summative assessments, and asked to be able to sit down and discuss these things with her. And she did respond to some of those emails. There are quite a few with no response, but in one of them, she does acknowledge that high school math is a particular success of this district. And then almost immediately went to a board meeting and again reiterated that what a grave concern it was. She then called me into a meeting with another employee present and said that I was cherry picking data and mischaracterizing, really made some yucky allegations towards me. And she did, to her credit, allow me to show her that this is public data. There is a Zoom dashboard that's public, and any member in the world, any person in the world, but certainly here in West Virginia, can go and download those annual reports at a district or school level. And so I showed her where I found that. I showed her that once you download an Excel sheet, you can sort it according to proficiency rates, and that's where those comparisons come from. Nothing there is internal data, it's all external. She did say that she understood that and thanked me for my time. So.
After that, there was emails that you sent her concerning other analysis and whatnot, and those went unresponded to.
Those did, though, with the exception of one. There was another time at a board meeting where it was shared a percentage of students that weren't meeting sufficient growth, and those benchmarks shared were not what I understood our guidance was from the Department of Education. So there was a back and forth about that, in which she shared some things, and then I shared the reason that I thought her analysis was off base, and then she stopped replying.
So at that point in time, are you saying that Dr. Williams would not communicate with you? And so you did not have the ability to, well, I'm guessing about that time is when you were told to email any questions you have or whatnot to your direct supervisor.
It was before that, but related. She asked that I not share score analysis directly with principals about how their schools were doing historically, and that all that communication should go through my direct supervisor. So that was before that. But yes, that does note a significant decline in her answering, and I have, lists of all the emails that she doesn't respond to over a series of months.
Under your duties, you're supposed to communicate with those administrators.
That is in my job description, but I certainly am going to follow a directive of my superintendent.
So after that, you did not communicate with them any of that?
Not as related to score analyses, no, sir.
So has there ever been a directive that she's given you that you have not followed?
No, sir.
Were you ever told through email or verbally not to advocate for the Math 1 system that was in place?
No, in fact, in direct contradiction to that, the guidance in the year before was so messy because we did have wonderful WVDE guidance, and then we had guidance as related to doing walkthroughs, and these folks were great at that, but then side conversations would happen and people would say, well, this person said that, and this person said that, and this person said that. And so my series of emails in the school year 24-25 as related to these practices were intended to clarify, and were in fact forwarding correspondence. You have to look back enough to see that I was forwarding correspondence from that school year and the school year before with the direct people at WVDE involved, whom we had multiple meetings with to make sure that we were in compliance with policy. And so that's where I was making the distinction between these folks' guidance say, you're not allowed to take two different classes, math classes in 8th grade. And I'm coming back and saying, policy allows us to do that. We just have to articulate that that's the policy of our school system. That is up to a local board's discretion. So those emails were captured very out of context, without the context surrounding multiple meetings where people were genuinely and truly confused, not to mention fearful, because we were in the middle of a pretty deep investigation in which there are people ostensibly who changed folks' grades. So things were pretty serious, and I was trying to make sure that we were all communicating clearly. And in my opinion, it's really important to do that in writing, because people will mischaracterize what you say if you don't.
Well, they already are, aren't they? Because
They absolutely are.
You refer to the practice as a policy when really it was never written down. It's not a numbered policy on a local level or on a state level, right?
I would believe that on the local level, we have submitted to the state that it's our decision to allow students to take 2 math classes. That's what I was told, but I don't have any verification. I don't see that on our website. I looked for that in a lot of places, but that's what I was told that we submitted when we were asked to submit. And you're asked to do that when you adopt new textbooks.
And at no point in time, I mean, from February 12th up until the time that she made this recommendation that you get 30 days, did they specifically ask you what involvement you had in that math one or what the practice was, right?
I think the investigator definitely asked me. I described it to him and also clearly said to him, as you can see in his notes, that I don't have anything to do with the transcription end of things. I'm never in the room for that. I don't know what WEBIS looks like for that. I don't know what principals talk about in regards to that because I'm not in those rooms and haven't been. And so I think I was very clear about that. I was also very clear with these two in the predetermination hearing.
And none of these letters or findings, have you ever been alleged to have committed a crime, right?
No,
And none of them really have you violated any state policy?
no,
Okay. You've not violated any local policy.
no,
You've not broken any rules issued by the superintendent or the board. Is that correct?
no.
Um, is there any other reason why you would think that you were called in for this meeting on February 12th?
I mean, it would be speculative, but the timing does coincide. The timing does coincide with advocacy as a parent to hang on to the opportunity for students to take honors coursework at the high school. But that's speculative. I can't.
I mean, that speculation is that
The timing is suspicious. Put it that way.
your family, just 2 weeks before you got this post to come in to the superintendent's office, your family stood in here to advocate certain positions for classes and whatnot.
They
That's
did.
right. I mean, both your daughters, right?
They did.
And your husband too, right?
He did.
And they all kind of hold positions, right? I mean, your oldest daughter was president of the National Honor Society, is that correct?
She was.
Your youngest one was president of the sophomore class at that point in time.
She was.
And besides your husband being a low-life lawyer, he was president of what?
The local school improvement council at the high school.
And their comments to the board were kind of emotional and advocating a point that the board did not want to hear. Is that correct?
I can't speak to the board, but they were asking the board to not go with Dr. Williams' recommendations to basically remove positions from the high school that would have allowed more in-person courses, in our opinion, and advocating against a policy, and the board actually did agree with him in this one, that
I would also, when Dr. Lewis, I think she's a lot. A lot of this streaming, what happens so that if they were watching, they also don't preach the week. I was a big shock because I'm asking. You might have to also say.
Being an advocate for kids and because the family is advocating students.
I'd say it a different way. I'd say that Dr. Williams' interpretation of Stronger Together is that everyone do her opinion on all things and never ask a question. My interpretation of Stronger Together invites questions, especially following chain of command and in conversation. And I truly appreciate the spirit of iron sharpens iron, and that the best idea will rise. So I will say that I am someone who has, and if you keep me employed by the system, will continue to respectfully, but strongly advocate for what I think is in the best interest of the Pocahontas County kids in our schools. That's how I view every bit of the job I've ever done, and it's how I will continue to do every job that I will do in the future. I'm sure that, as Dr. Williams described, folks would describe me as caring a lot about my job, caring a lot about outcomes here. And I would say that there have been many, many times, getting old now, I'm about to be 50, when I'm told no and I don't like to hear it. And I've been told no many times by people who sat in that office before her. And I said, I don't love that, but that's your call. And I hope I'm wrong and you're right. I'll go do what you said. That's not the case in this particular situation. Questions go unanswered and advice and advocacy is framed as if it's a crime.
So, in the meeting on the 12th, she had told you, you'll speak no more of advocating for this process. I've ruled that's it. You would follow it.
Absolutely. Just like in that meeting, she told me, you can't use your email or answer anybody's email. And despite that causing me some professional harm with partnerships and relationships that I've had for a long time, I followed her directive, even though I didn't agree with it, even though it brought me harm. And I would have and have done and will continue to do the same for the person that employs.
I have no further questions. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you. Ms. Burke-Henderman, I just wanted to really clarify. Is it my understanding of your testimony that January 21st, 2026 email that you sent at 11:32 a.m. was not accurate? It's
You're
not,
gonna have-
context was not what you intended it to be?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay, all right, so let's read it together. You go to page 84. And the fact that it's right in front of you. The exhibit.
Snap.
Page
Page 84.
My understanding of your testimony is that you have nothing to do with transcription of grades and you had no idea what happened with regards to grades and students. Is that correct? Is that what your testimony was?
Is my testimony that I don't know what happens to student grades? Is that what you're asking?
My question is, was it your testimony that you had no idea about how student grade transcriptions, what happens with those transcriptions after student withdrawals from Math 1 and 8th grade student withdrawals, that you don't really even know what happens?
My assumption is that they transfer to a different class, but on a record being asked that question, no, I've never been trained in that. I've never been in the room when that happens.
Okay.
That is correct.
And you understand sitting here today that no one has alleged that you changed the grade, correct?
I'm as yet unclear what folks are alleging that I've done, but
But.
I understand that in the 8-page letter, I understand that it is alleged that I advocate fiercely for policies that aren't what Dr. Williams told other people to do. That's
The
what I-
question is, and I'm going to be real specific. The question is, do you understand, at least after being here all day today, that no one is alleging that you, Joanna Burke-Kinderman, changed a grade? Do you understand that? Did you understand, did you ever allege that you did that?
Very much so. I don't think I'm the only person.
You thought that someone alleged that you actually changed a grade?
Well, in the hearing, and I'm not gonna get the dates right, but in the hearing that where you guys were supposed to decide if it was arbitrary and capricious to leave me on leave. And my attorney asked Dr. Williams directly, do you have any evidence that Joanna has altered anyone's grade? She said, we don't know, but that's one thing we're investigating. So yes, that leads me to believe that if you're investigating that, somebody said that I altered grades, and it led our whole community to believe that.
Was there anything in any letter to you from Dr. Williams that said that?
Was there anything in any letter from Dr. Williams? Can I reference those letters again? I think the one letter was pretty broad. Accuracy of grade transcription, and I don't know what she meant by that. I've never known, and you know that because in that 5th hearing, I kept asking you, what is it that you actually think I've done wrong? And you wouldn't answer that.
That's not correct.
That's
But I'm
absolutely.
not going to answer questions from you, but that is not accurate, okay? That's not why we're here today. We're here today, I'm going to ask you questions, and I want to ask you to answer the questions. Can you do that?
Sir, I'm answering questions. I'm perfectly capable of answering your questions, but we are absolutely
I'm going to
here.
ask that the witness be directed to answer questions. The witness has no right to speak to me, to ask me questions, or to say stuff like that to me. That's not.
What is the question?
The question, let's go to the January 21st email, 2026, 11:32 5:32 a.m. Which this is email from you, page 84.
Okay, slow it down, 84. Okay, where you want? Okay,
Is this an email from you?
it's part of an email from me that was also a forward of questions that other folks had asked.
Let me be real specific.
The part that's highlighted are my words, yes.
An email on January 21st, 2026, 11:32 a.m. on page 84. Do you see it within that box? Is that an email from you? The section of that page?
In this section of this page, yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. And you start by saying, folks, it is our advice to students not able to maintain a B in Math 1 semester to consider withdrawing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
However, this is mindful of how important GPA is for college admissions and funding. Is that accurate? What does that mean?
That means that if a student can't master content in one math class, they have issues in successive math classes later on. And so because if you don't fail a class, you can't repeat a class, then it's an issue if you don't really understand that content in Math 1 in 8th grade. You then go to Math 2, Algebra 2, you go through the series of classes that all depend on a deep understanding of those concepts. Less than ready.
The sentence before they were talking about withdrawing. So how does withdrawing impact the GPA, college admissions and funding?
I would have written this very differently if I knew we were really meeting here today, but I'll explain that to you. Thank you for asking me. I wish that I'd used the withdraw and enroll in a different class, because that's what those kids have to go somewhere. If a kid really doesn't understand the foundational first course in mathematics, it's very hard to get successful grades in all the rest of the 4 more classes in mathematics that they need to take in high school. And when you don't understand something, it's very hard to get.
Now, the next sentence, is if you have a student who you are concerned with, please be sure to notify parents in writing and copy your principal and me, meaning yourself, right?
Mhm.
So if there's a student that is considering withdrawing, why would you be included in that?
So historically, why have I?
This email, want to know if this email, when you wrote this email, because you've indicated that when you wrote this email, you wish you could rewrite it. It
Yeah.
really doesn't say what you meant. So
No,
when
it
you wrote
didn't say,
this,
it doesn't say what I meant. Don't characterize what I'm saying differently than I'm saying it. If I had known we're landing here today, I would have been more descriptive and been careful to finish out full sentences. But I'm glad to have the opportunity to clarify today. This is the first time that I've had that chance. And I will say that you're asking me why I wanted copied, because again, I'm not going to be willing to name names unless we roll into executive session for a portion of time when I name other teachers' names, because what was done to me, I will never do to someone else. But there are some teachers who were reticent to reach out to parents and just wanted to deal with this between teachers and administrators. And I think it's a parent's decision to understand this, and it's a parent's decision to decide whether or not it's in that kid's best interest. That's not our decision. It's the parents' decision.
okay,
The question is, do you want to go into executive session?
I don't want to unless people are gonna corner me in naming names that I'm not going to do in public.
so the question is, why was it that you wanted to be copied on an email notifying parents about a student considering withdrawing? Why would you want to be included on that email?
I wanted to make sure it was happening. I wanted to ensure that people really were letting parents know, not just telling parents that you have to withdraw, because that's not true. Letting parents know we're worried about this. Are you sure you want to stay in? I wanted to make sure that the messaging was appropriate for what our collective decision had been in the past. And that was never corrected to me that wasn't what we were doing. So this was the kind of tone and tenor that I took with our crew all the time.
Okay. And then in the next sentence, your statement is, I'd like to confirm that we will not, in all caps, transcribe grades until the end of the year for this course. That's what we have done in the past, which allows students to withdraw from school credit and transcription all the way into the spring. This way they can try to push themselves without hurting their future prospects. What did you mean by that?
I mean that our practice had been in the past, that if a student was demonstrating that they really didn't understand what was going on, we allowed them to transfer from a class into another class. And because they're already in 8th grade, it was like art, or I don't know what it was, but it was something else in the elective time when those courses are offered. And historically, we had done that up to semester. And people were really uptight about what they were supposed to do. And I was willing to write this email and put myself in the line of fire to get a question answered. This email is not a statement, sir. This email is a question.
Well, let's take on the paragraph we're on. Do you see the word transfer in that paragraph anywhere?
Once again, we're in the middle of a lot of chaos, and I wish I had put withdrawing and transfer to another class. I do wish I had.
You wish now, today, for the first time, that you had written this email differently. You wish that you would have said that if they withdraw and transfer into another class, you wish that you'd have put that.
Only for your purposes, but I think everyone else in the system would understand that we don't let middle school kids walk the hallways.
All right, and then avoid transcription, basically withdraw from high school credit and transcription all the way into the spring. So what does that mean to withdraw from high school credit and transcription all the way
Until the spring semester, you should be able to. This is what we've done in the past, was allow students to transfer to another course if they weren't ready to be successful with a whole year of advanced math.
And you knew when you wrote this email that students were being able to withdraw from class and avoid transcription of grades of a math grade.
I knew that students were allowed to transfer into a different class and no longer choose to take a high school credit.
Did you know that students were being permitted to withdraw from class and avoid transcription of math 1 grades while they're in 8th grade? You're under oath.
Did I know that students were able to transfer classes and that?
I didn't say transfer. Didn't say transfer. Withdraw from class.
So those two are the same thing to me because a kid doesn't just go nowhere. They withdraw and they enlist.
And set that aside where the kid goes. We're talking about the grades.
Well,
The
you're
grade-
saying that's not true. So I wouldn't agree with the statement the way you're saying it. And also, I absolutely value my integrity. I'm not going to lie.
The question is, when you wrote this email, did you know that students were being able to withdraw from math 1 in the 8th grade, even up into the 2nd semester, and avoid transcription of grades in their high school transcripts? Did you know that?
I'm going to say this the same way I say it to middle school kids. Speaking louder doesn't make you more clear. And again, I will answer it the same way. I do know that when students transfer out of a course and into another course while they're still middle school students, that course is not completed, that high school course is not completed, and so it is not part of their high school transcript. Just like any other middle school class, not part of a student's high school transcript.
Are you testifying here today that the student spent 1 semester in math 1 in the 8th grade and transferred out in the 2nd semester, that your math 1 for 8th grade for 1 semester would not be transcribed?
I don't know the answer to how the transcription worked because I wasn't for that. And again, this was an agreement of best practice between administrators, principals, directors, teachers over 10 years. And so the people who enacted that were also people who agreed to it and had done it for 10 years. And they were the people in the room reporting grades and transcribing grades. I was never in that room. I can't answer that for you.
Okay, we'll go with it, that this has been going on for a while. What a question for you is in your knowledge, because you testified, it sounds like, that you really didn't know what was going on with the transcription of grades for these students that were through for math 1. I want to be clear, did you or did you not know that students being permitted to withdraw during 8th grade, they were taking math 1, that they would avoid transcription of that grade by withdrawing before the end of the school year? Did you or did you not know that?
I did know that prior to last school year, students were allowed to transfer out of a high school credit bearing course. I would assume not just in math, but also in Spanish in the past, when we also offered that course. I would assume, but I don't know that students were allowed to do that with their parents' permission. And that was the meeting in May with Director Dunlap, where she articulated that that was the plan, and she asked me to put that all in writing, and the directive was that parents needed to put in writing if they wanted to have their students withdraw from Math 1 to enroll in a different school plan. I don't know what actually happened in terms of what happened to the grade. It was never included in that part of the discussion. But I did know that if you didn't complete a high school course in middle school, that wasn't going on your transcript as a completed course. That's what policy 2510 says. If you complete a high school course, that course will go on your transcript.
And it also says that if you participate in a course in a weighted class, that you have to get that transcript.
A weighted class, what does that have to do
Well,
with
it's weighted towards your GPA. So if you take Math 1 in middle school, get that grade, it's not to be transferred.
if you complete the course, sir, that's what the policy says.
Okay.
It doesn't say if you sit your bottom in a seat for a week.
Let's look at page, let's see. Page 160.
Could you give me a moment, please, to get where you are? You said 167?
Are you familiar with this? Policy 2510, this is just a summary from the state file. You've seen that before?
I have seen this before, yes. But it's not part of my job description to interpret this policy into practice in our school system, though. So if I'm going to be asking Gil questions, I'd like time to.
Yeah, well, whose job is that?
Whose job is that? Well, I would assume that Dr. Williams decides whose job it is to give directives and answer most emails when they have questions.
Well, I'm talking about as far as policy.
I would assume that's up to Dr. Williams to decide that, but it was never shared with me that that was my responsibility.
And if you'll go to page 15 in the handout.
Now I'm going to page, hold on a second. This packet starts with page 12.
Yeah, it's in the smaller packet. That's it, that's the big packet, smaller packet.
This packet, page,
This is attached to the letter you see. So you see in 6.4.8.2, which was in the letter that was sent to you in June, that you've had since that time, with this attached to it, so you've seen this, correct?
yes,
All right. And in 6.4.8.2, you see where it says that the grade for any credit bearing course taken prior to grade 9 becomes part of the student's permanent record and is calculated in the student's high school GPA. Do you see that?
may I read?
Do you see that?
Is that acceptable?
I mean, I want an answer to the question I asked. I don't want somebody to ask me a question back.
Oh my goodness, I do not see that this policy says what you just read. It does
Okay.
not say that.
I'm reading this last sentence. I'm asking you if you see that.
Do I see the sentence, the grade for any credit bearing course? Yes.
Yes, the grade for any credit bearing course taken in the prior ninth grade becomes part of the student's permanent record and is calculated in the student's high school GPA. Do you see that sentence? That's what my question is.
do see that
All right. And in the next sentence, 6.4.8.3, all students will receive appropriate grades in credit for all work completed while attending school regardless of the duration of their enrollment period. You see that sentence? And students cannot receive credit for the same course twice. See that? And when a student retakes a failed course, both grades shall be transcribed, and the county grading policy will determine how these courses are calculated. And so, is it your testimony here today that a student can participate in a semester or longer than a semester in Math 1 in the 8th grade and avoid transcription of grades?
It is my testimony today, if you could hold and just let me finish, that I have been directed by prior directors, administrators, and everybody who's my boss before this school year that middle school grades were transcribed at the end of the year. That's been the practice and policy as far as I understand it. And the sentence that you didn't want to read says, any student who successfully completes a high school level course should have their credit transcribed.
That's not what it says. So let's read what it says. You just paraphrase that.
Any
Any
student
student who
who
successfully
successfully completes a high school level course, one meeting the high school approved content standards and taught by a content certified teacher prior to grade 9 shall receive full credit for that course towards graduation requirements. And again, I'll focus you on any student who successfully completes a high school course.
shall receive full credit.
Who completes? Full credit. Who completes?
Is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not, because full credit means the full credit.
Who
But if someone
completes when it's completed?
If someone completed a one semester, could they get a half credit?
I'm not sure, and that's why Dr. Williams should have answered by January 21st.
But Dr. Williams wasn't a duress, she wasn't the recipient you gave when you received the election.
The recipient was the person I was directed to ask, and that person asked Dr. Williams, as she shared on January 22nd. And Dr. Williams either did not direct her to answer me, or I'm not sure. You interviewed her, so I would like to know why no one answered my email of the two administrators and my direct supervisor who I asked it of. Because that's who Dr. Williams directed me to ask questions of.
You were here during, Mr. Henry's testimony, right?
Yes, I was.
And did you hear his testimony about multiple witnesses who said that they relied on you for direction and authority on this process of transfer, not transcribing grades and students withdrew prior to the do you recall that?
I recall his testimony. I was able to take a cursory glance at his consolidation of people's statements, but I've never been able to see a transcription nor hear those for myself. And I do believe that they were mischaracterized here today.
Okay, so you believe that the investigators' characterizations of the statements of the witnesses was mischaracterized?
So I heard the investigator say that one teacher felt I bullied and intimidated her, and I tried to look through that quickly, and I didn't see that reflected anywhere there. I saw reflected many places there that administrators and teachers said they weren't sure where this originated, and that we all were on the same page, and that everybody thought the same thing. I didn't see anybody saying Joanna made us do this, and we were fearful of Joanna. I did not see
Well,
that.
there are statements, and maybe you have testified about multiple witnesses who said that you were the person who basically proposed it or propagated this policy and told them that this is the way that it was. Do you not recall that?
Well, I recall that that's what he's saying, and I see that that's what you're saying, but I also understand that you could have given us that full testimony in February. In fact, the investigator was interviewing me. I asked him for a full recording of my interview because he behaved so inappropriately, and also asked him for notes that were redacted from everyone. And so since February, I've been asking to see this, and you're claiming that it happened. So I guess we take your word for it, but I would believe that the board has the right to actually hear those interviews or see the transcription and not just rely on somebody else's interpretation of that, because I don't see his interpretation reflected in the notes there. No, I don't.
All right. Well, this interpretation that is reflected is that multiple witnesses said that they relied on you for the advocacy of this process, that they were allowed to allow students could withdraw and they would avoid transcription of grades. Whether you agree with him or not, do you agree that he testified to that today?
I agree that that's what he said.
And there's a summary of his statement with Ms. Scotchy that supports that has been going on since 2012. There is statements in here from Ms. Schaffner. There's statements in here from Ms. Wagner.
Could you please quote? I was intimidating, bullying, or trying
I
to.
didn't say that.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
think about your knowledge and your probably.
I sat here telling him about stuff, but I'm gonna object. He's testifying, trying to get her to agree to something. We've never been given a copy of it to know whether it's true or false. So, I mean, if you want to cross-examine on that and give us the statements like we begged for the last 2 months.
First
Now
of all,
now that you're trying to present it, you promised us that you would. That's what you said at the beginning of this. So now that you're presenting it, give it to us.
you all have the statements, everybody has in front of you, including you, for the record. Secondly, you know as well as I do that across examination, you can ask questions in this size. And you did it all day. Twice.
And I'll stop from doing that. And so I'm gonna say to you, what you're asking her now is not a part of my direct examination. So he should not be allowed to ask her. Let him produce those witnesses and then ask her again.
The law is very clear that at this level in administrative hearing, the school district presentation of evidence can be based on these statements that are provided by the investigator. You do not have to bring all the witnesses. As we said at the outset here, this is not a full-blown adversarial hearing. Although it seems like it is, because I believe that's what it's been turned into. This was supposed to be an explanation of the charges, which we had given, and an opportunity to respond. Ms. Kinderman has testified, and I'm asking her some questions. All I'm asking you is if you recall him saying that or not. You said you recall it, but you don't agree with it. That's all.
No, what you're asking her is what these other people have said that we've never heard anything about. That's what you're asking.
Now, what I'm asking her,
And
and
that's what I'm objecting to.
well, what I'm asking her is what the question is. It's not what you say it is, it's what my question is.
Gonna hold you to what she has personal knowledge of. They just got all this. It's really probably not appropriate to ask for what's in here.
All right, well,
We'll determine.
I appreciate that, and I'm gonna then direct you to your own statement, the summary of your own statement. You did get the statement to the investigator, did you?
I'd love to review it because on first glance, his summary, of what I said, does not seem accurate at all.
I didn't ask the question.
This is my livelihood and my reputation on the road line here. I appreciate it if you just let me answer.
Well, what I would say is the way this works, is I ask a question and then you answer it. That's the way it works. So when I ask you a question, then you can answer the
I
question.
think the way it works is up to our board.
Well, that's the way it was scheduled. That's the way it was set out from the beginning.
I'll answer your question. What is the question?
Let's look at page 37 of the investigative report, which is the article packet to your right.
Okay.
We're gonna pause and go into executive session.
The board itself, what you want to ask if there is a motion for him
If they
to
do
do
something,
so.
yeah.
And this is for Virginia, 6-9 dash. Yeah, Virginia.
We're gonna go-
That every 40 or I'm just the board, okay.
355.
Stacey, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This right here, I know I've read your attention to it, in the larger packet, you'll go to page 71. You see that? This is an email, from you dated April 24th, 2025 at 1 p.m. It's 71 in red ink. All right.
Oh, that's 170. Excuse me. For me to have bias for the whole time, it's not acceptable. So thanks. Girls and kind of things. What's going on here? This goes 58 to 171.
Yeah.
Oh. This is, it looks like kind of mixed up. This is like 15 and then 180.
So you make,
I don't think you're all that.
Thanks, Danny, 71, 73. Got this.
I've given you what I need.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so this is your email on Thursday, right, April 24th, 2025,
It is.
and you've written it out to several folks that are all listed there, recipients.
Mhm.
And you start off by saying this is long, but please read it entirely because it's a complex issue. You have to get together with me about it.
Mhm.
And would you say that, given that introduction, that you kind of took your time and wrote this thorough email here?
I would not say that. This was another time in which there were a flurry of emails with a lot of confusion and all people saying different things. If, I'm sure you went through all of my emails, so you saw that there was lots of flurry of activity around this time. And this was a response to emails that weren't all including everybody in the conversation.
Well, let me direct your attention to the top of page 72.
Okay.
And in that first paragraph, it says our policy is that students take math 8 and they take an entirely second math class, math 1. This way, we have the best of both worlds. We can allow any student to try the class who wants to. If they aren't successful with the material during the first semester, they can withdraw from the class with no fear that making that decision could forever harm their high school math and science path. What did you mean by that?
I think what I mean by that is captured in the next sentence. If you don't truly master math 1, you struggle immensely in the next classes. In addition, high school GPA is a huge decider for higher ed classes. This policy was shaped from years of feedback from students, parents, and parents.
Would you agree that that paragraph is discussing, in fact, being able to withdraw from the class during the year and avoid transcription of grades?
So in that first semester, again, we don't allow students to just be nowhere in school. So you can interpret withdraw from a class to mean they're going somewhere. Transfer, withdraw and transfer is how you should read all of this. That's how it was understood. Like everybody who read this. There's no administrator who thinks we would withdraw a student from a course and let them run amok in one grades.
So the question is to avoid transcription. Right? Is that this statement?
No, that what this is stating here is in the next sentence. If you don't truly master math 1, you struggle immensely in the next class. We were trying to keep students from 4 years of being in a math class that they struggled in high school. If there was any way that we could.
You also testified that you were not aware of anything that you've been informed of from Dr. Williams of any rule, policy, law you violated. Is that correct? Is that what you said? You're not
I
aware
don't
of it?
see that in that 8-page determination. No, sir.
But what- So if you will look at that
Could you tell me what that is?
determination letter.
Which page? Yeah, do you have one?
I'm not sure because these are.
I know, it's all sorted and set down, but later.
Okay, could you move the other thing away from me, and I can just have one back? But if I could just have the one back. Thank you. Okay, which page are we on?
Well, you have a letter now.
Well, I mean, I have a 200 some page back. Which page? On page.
So it's a determination, reading the determination letter that you don't see that you violated any policies or laws. Is that what your testimony is?
Okay, let's see.
Say the right thing here. Very end of this, and this is quite long.
So this matter is not based upon a conclusion that you personally entered or completed any grades in the this, nor is it based on a disagreement for you to provide advanced math opportunities to students. It's a determination related to my advocacy, my defense, and my efforts to research. I don't know what that word means. I think you mean persevere or keep practices that allow students, and you say avoid academic consequences, but I mean to really learn math, to really learn high school math. So it seems to me that this is what I'm being asked to go, well, geez, I've already gone 6 months without being able to talk to anybody about my work. Seems like I'm to go another 30 days based on, not that I personally did anything that is against policy, but instead that I advocated for practices that allow students to push themselves and to really understand.
As a math coach, do you view yourself in a leadership position?
That feels like an incredibly loaded question. I don't view myself any kind of way. I'm here to serve.
Do you think that it's professional conduct that a leader or a person in leadership position would guide folks that are looking for guidance in ways that violate state or local policy?
I don't know what my opinion writ large would have to do with that, but I would say that I was asked questions by lots of people. And I put together why we do it this way and asked, are we still doing it this way? So I do think it's my job to ask what we're doing. When people are scared to ask questions or unclear.
But the question is you, as the math coach in Pocahontas County School, do you believe that if you were guiding or advising folks to allow students to withdraw from courses and avoid transcription of grades, would that be professional conduct on your part?
Again, I'm not sure how to answer that question. If I were just trying to have kids avoid consequences, would that be professional conduct? It's such a weird hypothetical that I'm not sure that I can really answer what you're saying right now. Do I believe that I behaved in a professional manner? Am I proud of my conduct? Is that what you're asking me? Because I can answer that.
Yeah.
Well, your question is so loaded that like, I don't think that's what I did. So if I had done that, I'm sorry. That feels like.
Let me ask it to you this way. As a math coach at Pocahontas County Schools, would it be inappropriate for you to guide or lead folks looking to you for direction to violate state policy?
If I had been given a directive of a state board policy, and interpretation of it here locally, and then I said, don't do what I know you've been trained to do, I do think that that would be a violation. I do not believe that's the case here. That's why I've asked a question that was repeatedly deleted out of my determination letter. You left in the defense of why it is I think we should do this, and you left out me asking, is this what we're still doing? And no one answered that question.
As you're sitting here today, do you understand what the school district is doing with regards to students who are in the 8th grade that are enrolled in Math 1?
I understand very clearly what the policy will be next year. And this is the first time I understand.
And do you believe that you had a different understanding of what the policy meant prior to this?
Very much so.
Which policy?
Okay, I shouldn't be using policy. This is again, I've been gotten confounded as the investigator. I believe that the practice was if a student was not successful in a math course, then they were misplaced. And with their parents' permission, we would transfer courses, just like we do at the high school and did last year. My understanding in multiple positions where a kid was in the wrong class or wasn't successful in that class, we transfer them from a class they're not successful in and they're not ready for, and we put them in a different class. And even in those cases, in math at least, that kiddo does go take the class again eventually because math classes are sequential.
Would you agree that allowing an eighth grade student who's taking math one in the eighth grade to withdraw from the course prior to the end of the year, for transcription would be a violation of state board policy?
When I read policy 2510, and again, this is why I asked for clarification from my supervisors. I read that to say, if you complete the course, then your grade should get transcribed. So nothing that was happening in January was completed. That's why I was asking the question.
Thank you. That's all the questions.
I have no further questions. Dr. Williams.
You've already been sworn in.
Yes.
Hey, she's still on the road.
Yes.
Fine. Dr. Williams, isn't the firm of Dinsmore Show, aren't they on retainer for representing Pocahontas County Board of Education?
I'm going to object to this line of questioning. If you call her back as a witness, I mean, what is the purpose of her being called? I mean, you're going to have a whole new line of questioning, but I'm going to object to that. That has nothing to do with this case here.
I'd like to get some point how much all this costs.
But that's irrelevant to this proceeding.
Well, I think it may be relevant to the, all those people who are up on that screen, these people are back here. I pay taxes here. I think that's probably relevant to the board, so.
No, I have a question.
Or is Dinsmore Show on retainer with Board of Education?
Yes,
And is that retainer paid monthly?
yes.
Is that $3,500 per month? And originally, Dinsmore Show was representing you, the superintendent, in the first meeting that you had with Joanne, is that correct?
Correct.
And how long did they represent you after that?
I am not sure.
Why are they not representing you now?
When I consulted with Mr. Maroon, changed attorneys,
Can you tell me why?
because I thought it was in the best interest of the school district, because Jason Long had grown up here and had conflict or perceived conflict in this issue.
Did he tell you he had that, or you just felt he had it?
Actually, no, he sent Mary Catherine to me, and rather than coming himself.
And for this, or for, in the very first meeting?
The very first meeting.
Okay, all right. Well, in the bills that you supplied me, you also supplied bills for Dinsmore Shaw for billings for February and March, which were $3,500 apiece. Is that what you paid them to work on this case in February and March?
No, they had flat rates in representing him.
Okay.
It's my understanding, I mean, that's my understanding of the contract that we have with this one.
So do you have an idea of how much you paid Dinsmore and Shaw in representing the Board of Education and the issue with Joanna alone? the bill you gave a total of $7,000.
And comprehensive service to the county total $7,000.
Okay.
We contact the attorney for things, a variety of things.
Oh, I understand that, but my FOIA request was only for the amount of money that was spent on Joanna's case. So is Dinsmore and Shoals bill accurate as to the time that they spent on Joanna's case or not?
I'm not Dinsmore and Schultz. I just know they send me a monthly bill for services by the
Okay.
district.
All right. Now, Bowles and Rice, they're not on retainer, right?
They're not.
Okay. And so how much does Mr. Morone charge per hour?
I believe it's 400.
And the building that was sent to me, at least as of July 31st, you've seen it, right? That added up to like $33,000, did it not?
Yes.
After July 31st until now, have you received any of the billings?
That bills go straight to the people business officer, and after she signs those, I sign off on paying them, so I don't know if we've got a bill for all this check.
All right. Well, when you look at those bills, does he charge $400 per hour just to drive from Charleston here and back? You get that on there? So these are redacted. I can't see evidently the driving time between here and there is attorney-client privilege. I don't have that. Hourly rate. What was done?
I would assume you have on one of those redacted copies, what was appropriate to release to you.
So did you redact them or somebody else redact them?
Mr. Monroe redacted them.
All right, all right. So again, the driving time, $400 an hour?
I'm not sure.
And have you ever driven from Charleston to here or here to Charleston?
Unfortunately, yes.
All right. See, what would you say it is, about 3 hours?
Depends on who's driving. If I'm driving, sometimes I can make it in 2 hours and 15 minutes.
So just alone from the time of July 1 until now, has Mr. Monroe been here?
Yes, he was here, I want to say 2 other times.
Since July 31st?
No. Overall.
Since July 31st, he's not been here until today.
Correct.
All right. And I mean, one bill I saw was for $11,000, and I don't think I saw as much papers as what I see the produced here today. Do you have any idea what the billing would be from 31st until now?
I am not an accountant with Mr. Monroe's firm.
So do you care what this costs?
Absolutely, I do care what it costs.
And the investigator, the bill that I was provided, it was $1,250. Is that the only bill that you received from the investigator?
I don't know. I checked with my chief school business officer. She said that we have been billed for his services and they have been paid. So I signed up on the BO. And that's what you have.
So as of today, if we include Dinsmore and Shoal, it's $41,000. Plus whatever Mr. Monroe's going to charge since July 31st. You agree?
Yes, he'll be paid with his services.
Whenever you found this out on the 22nd, why didn't you just have a meeting with all the administrators, teachers, and Joanne? And say, this is the policy, this is what we're going to do.
I was in a meeting when I found it out.
Well, I understand that, but soon after that, why didn't you have that? Okay, I would phrase the question. Between January 22nd, when you found out from her immediate supervisors, because the chain of command was working, until February 12th, why didn't you just answer an email?
I didn't have an email to answer.
Why didn't you create one?
I disseminated information through the appropriate channels to the folks that was in that meeting, that was in the leadership position, that had authority and insight into grade transcription and the BPS.
So did you email back to Stephanie Burns, her immediate supervisor, so that Stephanie can tell her the practice is this.
Stephanie Burns was in the meeting, and I verbally clarified.
Okay, look, I'm giving you a whole big window. I'm giving you a window from January 22nd till February 12th. At any time in that period of time, would you email her immediate supervisor that you need to tell her this is what the policy is?
Yeah.
That's easy. I mean, that's not that hard. Okay. So did you email or have Stephanie to email the principals? Tell them this is the policy.
The principals were in the meeting in which we discussed this. Why would I tell them?
Joanne wasn't in the meeting, was she?
Joanna was not in the meeting because it's not within her scope to make decisions on things.
The only reason why I say that, she didn't know, but you all were discussing. Wouldn't it have been simple to just send her an email saying this is policy and it would have been taken care of right then and there?
I think the simplest thing that has been done is Ms. Burke Kinderman did not understand the state and local policy regarding grade and transcription would be for her to ask what that policy was, refer to it, and disseminate that information rather than making an assumption and asking a question when we were on state of emergency of possible total county takeover.
Wait a minute.
I think that would have been, if I don't understand something, I'll look at the policy and read it.
But doesn't that just make it even more important that you would have sent an email saying that's not the policy, we're not following? If it's that immediate, that's the reason why I'm starting with an email. The easiest thing you could have done, you agree, was to send her an email responding saying, no, that's not what we're doing.
Not with Ms. Burke Kinderman. As we have seen, an email turns into months and months of information. But I will say this. She could have looked at the policy with her status in the academic community and her intellect and ability to interpret and articulate things. She could have just looked at the policy. I cannot accept personal accountability for every individual person.
Well, ma'am, you're the superintendent, I'm sorry, you took on that job, like,
That's right, but I can't, if they need to look up the
I
policy.
mean, you're almost like some people don't want to sit here and listen to stuff in their own problems. So
What are you saying?
you took this job. So let me ask you this. Wouldn't the next thing have been maybe to write a letter to her, send it to her and say, that's not the policy? Wouldn't that have been like the next best thing you could have done in that gap between January 22nd and February 12th?
I think the best thing that I did was I memorialized the conversations that occurred. I called Ms. Burke Kinderman in, I gave her an opportunity to bring her representative, and I gave her an opportunity to respond to the question face to face.
But you never really told her what it was about.
Did ask her
Right.
about grade transcription, and if she was involved in that. I did ask her. I also showed
And
her the job description.
she said fine, she told you exactly what she knew about it, but you didn't believe it, right? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying what she said did not corroborate what she had written in an email.
So when you had her actually in your office, and you had the opportunity to talk to her about this, did you say to her, in response to the email that you wrote back in January 21st, I sent out this other memo now, January 27th. Joanna, that's the policy, and that's what you follow from now on. Did you say that to her?
I did not review the January 27th meeting.
You sent out the memorandum.
I did not review that in that conference with her.
All
That
right,
was the question.
but you had it right there in front of her. I mean, from me to her. You could have told her, in response to your email, we're not doing that. This is the policy that I put in place January 27th. Joanna, that's what we're following. You could have said that, could you not?
I could have said a lot.
Okay, but you did, right?
Go ahead.
Right. I know. What I'm jumping to is what you did, instead of doing what I would consider to be appropriate, you initiated this investigation, right? Now it's spent in the end $50,000, right? How much do you make a year under contract?
This
Not
year,
good, Jack. We are getting so far off of this.
No, I'm not.
Purpose of
No,
this
I'm not.
case is here.
I'm a taxpayer, I'm told this.
Well, that's a different forum and a different time and date. This hearing is.
What are you trying to hide all the time?
Nobody's trying to hide anything. Nobody's trying to hide anything. You're spending all this time and energy here today that have nothing to do with the issue that we're here for.
We're spending all this time and energy because what you all produce has nothing to do with what happened. Well, I'd like to know, ask her to answer the question.
It's public record.
Yeah, I don't care, telling you. I believe my salary is 118 plus a stipend for something insurance and things at 119. I think that's what's on the West Virginia Department of Education.
A teacher just starting brand new today, what's their starting salary, you know?
It depends on the grade, the degree level, so I can't tell you what a base teacher salary, because I believe it is 38,
Okay.
around 38.
All right. It doesn't bother you spent that much money and really found nothing.
Yes.
All right, I have no further question.
Hey, no.
Regardless, we have any info.
Have no other witness. Thank you.
All right, but thank you. And do you need a break beforehand?
No, I'm.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. Thank you for your time today. It's obviously been a very long day. And in closing, basically, there's all the evidence has been presented. There's a letter, there's a packet of letters. The board has the letters that outline the determination, the reasons for the determination. The purpose of this hearing today was to make sure that the employee knows the charges which he's had since June, to give an explanation of the evidence, which we have done here today, in addition to what was already in the letter, and to give Ms. Burkett an opportunity to this case here today, comes in with a significant backdrop of the school district being in a state of emergency and subject to the special circumstances review, and the backdrop by which the superintendent was addressing the issues that are already at hand regarding grade transcription. Obviously, this is an issue of great concern for this county. It certainly was significant enough for the State Department and the State Board to address a report and declare a state of emergency. Dr. Williams had gone to great lengths and spent much time and energy to help the school district come into full compliance with regards to transcription of grades, only to find out right before she was ready to hear back from the State Board to clarify that she had checked all the boxes, that there was another problem issue. This was not something she'd been looking for, despite the basically the statements made today that this Burke Hinderman thinks that all this is in retaliation. There's no evidence to support that. She made lots of statements about emails and things that were unanswered, yet none of that was produced into the record here today. I wanted to make very pointed statement that what the board is to consider in these hearings is the evidence that's before it. The evidence before the board is primarily, of course, what the administration presented. You have a packet of exhibits, you have the full investigative report that's been submitted, you have that witness come in and testify about it. It's perfectly appropriate and permissible in a hearing at this stage. Even at the grievance board, if you're up there in an administrative hearing, to have a witness who conduct an investigation to testify about the information that was gathered during the investigation. There's nothing inappropriate about that. If you don't believe Mr. Kingery, that's your choice. I'm not saying, people want to, conclude that they don't believe a witness. They have reason not to. Everybody has the right to evaluate the credibility of a witness, and whether or not they accept their testimony. But he did a very lengthy and thorough investigation. He's provided you with a full report of that. He's attached multiple documents to support that. It wasn't like a 2 or 3 page report that didn't have any meat on the bone. This was a very comprehensive packet of investigation that was done here. Dr. Williams has a very lengthy determination letter. He's followed all process in this case. Certainly this case has has covered all the bases, if you will. Have a hearing on a paid, non-disciplinary administrative is very rare for someone to request that to happen. Certainly that, caused this case to, to be much bigger than it was initially would have expected to be. Of course, we spent an entire day here, in this hearing here today. This case was about, the county math coach who's been in place for many years with the school district, that she basically used her authority, concerning the math program. And she exercised that authority in a way that, basically resulted in non-compliance with state board policy. There's no question about that. If there's any question in your mind or anybody's mind today at this hearing, because there was some conflicting testimony from Ms. Burke-Kinderman about being confused. The testimony is, and the policy speaks for itself, is that these grades were required to be transcribed. Dr. Williams has told you that she consulted with the State Department folks, and her liaison before this thing unfolded. And it was very clear to her that if this in fact is what happened, then this is a violation of policy. Dr. Williams stepped in immediately. She avoided and prevented the school district from violating the policy any further. She testified that there is at least 23 instances in the past where this has been allowed, which is not permissible. That's not before us, that's behind us, but it is a significant problem. And this, Dr. Williams treated this case with seriousness, because this is a person who's in a position of authority. You're going to have to read the statement yourself. Mr. Kingery testified about it. These folks look to Ms. Williams, to Ms. Burke-Kinderman for direction and guidance and relied on her. There's many statements in there that say that this went back for many years, 10, 12 years of them even dealing with and speaking with Ms. Burke-Kinderman about these specific issues. Ms. Burke-Kinderman's own statement in the summary of the statement here that Dr. Williams talked about, it is right in the. I got to pull up there. Ms. Burke-Kinderman stated that if he is what's required to get the promised scholarship in the state of West Virginia, Ms. Burke-Kinderman stated that many kids chose to take a seat at high school, and possibly some may be taking D's. She described a student many years ago who missed the promised scholarship due to great averages and stated that she wanted to avoid that and do the absolute best for students. The situation is where this policy came from. This policy or practice, if you will, if that's the words we want to use, may have been a practice that was being engaged upon. It was in violation of policy. Dr. Williams has done anything wrong to address that policy and to basically recommend action here. Now, I think it should not be lost in the other question and answers here today. The testimony of Dr. Williams that Ms. Burke-Kinderman was very uncooperative throughout this investigation, that she did not cooperate in answering questions. Dr. Williams has said to you that when she had this initial meeting with Ms. Burke-Kinderman, if the responses would have been different, and maybe if there had been some accountability at that time by Ms. Burke-Kinderman, we may not be here today. But instead, she did a lot of what she did in the meetings. The other meetings is, I don't know, I don't understand, I can't answer that question. And she was evasive, according to Dr. Williams, in all the meetings that she had. The statements that she gave to Mr. Kingery is summarized in there, and it certainly doesn't help her case. It corroborates the case that Dr. Williams did. This is a matter of significance. It's coming on the backdrop of the state's state of emergency. Kansas School District, obviously takes very serious matters involving transcription of grades and being out of compliance with state board policies, especially when those matters have been brought to their attention. We would ask that the school board take their responsibility very seriously. I think all of them probably already have. I was on the school board myself. I've been in that seat. I know what being a student member is about. And I encourage you to take your role very seriously here in making this decision. And there's been a lot of commentary made. Maybe people thought it was under their breath. I can hear it from here. One comment about indicating that the fact that Ms. Burke-Kinderman was placed on administrative leave resulted in 3 new board members. if that's the tenor of this hearing, that, we're here and that basically, that we basically changed the board election over the, action of placing Ms. McKenna on paid, non-disciplinary administrative leave when the actions and allegations that were provided to the superintendent were such that do impact the learning environment of students. That's way out of bounds. That's way out of bounds. Dr. Williams was very, she said, the reason she's placed on leave is because state law says you have to place employee on leave. The words mandatory, shall. She had no choice. She had no choice. The school district had no choice, but for her to be placed on leave. Certainly, if you think this hearing today, don't think that the transcription of grades negatively impacts the school environment of students. That's a concern. That's something that should be taken very seriously. It impacts not only their grade transcripts, their eligibility for scholarships, their access to SSAC approval, and being able to be eligible for sports. There's lots of reasons why transcription is required. There's a reason why there's a state board policy. There's also a reason why on grades and transcriptions that are not being followed either in this case. And also, the big one is policy 3210. It's set out in the letter. It was attached to the letter, but it seemed very interesting to me how convenient it was that we don't see anything that we don't want to see. It was kind of like, I see nothing, I hear nothing, I say nothing. The letter speaks for itself. It's very detailed. Policy 2510 is attached. 3210 is attached. Your responsibility as employees to be professional and to have a high standard of conduct and to not violate any rules or policies. So to do so and to advocate for other folks to do so and to dig in when there's an apparent, there's feedback coming from consultants, you're in a state of emergency, you're now worried because we're going to transcribe grades, we're going to send this email out to everybody but the superintendent at the last minute to try to preserve this practice that's not in compliance with policy. That's what this case is about. I mean, the case is about, is that what you want your employees to be doing? Are your employees, should they be allowed to do that? Is that okay with you? If it's okay with you, then that's you direct your decision here today. But there is so much information here in front of the board from this hearing today about what has been done wrong here. And, you know, she can get up and say and testify that she didn't know, she didn't understand, she doesn't bully anybody. Nobody was felt intimidated by her. Nobody looked to her for these leadership decisions. And she can play that role here in this hearing here today. But the facts are overwhelming to the contrary. And to me, her credibility needs to be assessed here today in theory. You can look at the statements in the report. You can look at her own words and her own emails and see where her credibility stands. So we're going to ask that you uphold the recommendation of the superintendent, that you ratify her determination that 30-day unpaid suspension is warranted in this case. Thank you.
I promise you, I say I'm gonna be short. I'm gonna be short. What we're asking for, in the end, is for this board to make a motion. One, make Dr. Williams sign a written formal apology to Joanna. Asking that if you provide copies of everything came from this investigation, and after we get a copy of it, the custodian of these records destroyed. We're asking that her personal file be eliminated from any of these letters, filings, like we're asking that you find what Joanna did is within her job description. She did absolutely nothing wrong. It's not hard to come to that because Mr. Moran is correct. This is my first educational thing I've ever done. I actually told Joanne, I don't know a damn thing about education law. And you know what? My fear of not knowing nothing about it had nothing to do with me. This had nothing to do with educational law. This is something among. I'm just here to present the facts. And it really galls me that this investigative report, what you see, because I don't know what was in the first one. I don't know. And I told you earlier on, I apologize for how much time it took today because it could have been a heck of a lot shorter if we had been provided. I don't know is determined with these discovery, meaning investigative reports and witness statements. I apologize that I didn't know what witnesses were going to say and had them here so that they could speak. I apologize that Mr. Monroe tries to get you to rely on a summation of statements that people made. And this investigator told you, that's all he's doing. He's giving you his take on what those witnesses had to say. You're not getting their take on what those witnesses say. Matter of fact, he can come right out, bullying phrase, he's the one that came up with that, right? It's not in the report at all. He admitted to that. It's funny how we're going to classify a passionate person for children, teachers, schools, and who's absolutely passionate about her job being overbearing. I become that way sometimes. A lot of times it was about other things, and believe me, I'd rather be brush hogging, running an excavator, doing something besides being here today. But smoke and mirrors things that he's trying to use instead of I'm doing, that's exactly, he's trying to make you think that because the state involvement had something to do with all of this, then you should jump on her bandwagon and take what she did was absolutely correct. You know, these liaisons that she took advice from, people from the Department of Education that she took advice from, they were never interrogated, they were never questioned, they were never asked to give a statement or nothing. We went from what would have been easily nothing more than answering an email that asked a question to a $50,000 witch hunt. She sat up there and easily said it, and so did the investigator, that Joanna has committed no crime. She's violated no state policy. She violated no local policy. She violated no rule. She violated no regulation. She's not violated any direct order or directive from Dr. Williams. So, yeah, we got lengthy stuff. There's a stack of it. An 8-page letter, but when you read it, for 8 pages, it says the same thing over and over and over. It does not come to any conclusion she violated nothing. And she has no choice. I mean, when they're going to tell you superintendent shall, no, the superintendent had every choice. It was in her discretion to send out an email. Say, no, we're not doing that. Call her on the phone. We don't do it. So, no, we're not doing it. Send her a letter. Bring her in her office, which she did. She had 2 weeks that she could have done any of those other things, but they had her in her office and could have easily said, who's your involvement in this? Did you transcribe records? No. She was waiting for this opportunity. She was waiting for this opportunity because of emails that she testified that she. And I'm telling you, you all are the judge of it. You can judge who was telling the truth and who wasn't telling the truth from that seat up there. I don't have to point that out. If the issue is credibility, I can shut up now. I can't believe I've been at this 4 years. Oh yeah, I've tried many cases. Oh, and it's not that I don't think I'm good at it. I really don't. I get lucky and I get cases that have facts on my side. And as much as we beg, please show us what she supposedly did. Nothing. She has nothing to do with transcribing the records. She has nothing to do with recording the records. I told you. She has nothing to do with any of the things that they're alleging that she did. She's advocating for a thing that helps students. That's all she seeks. She doesn't see the rest of it as to what happens to those grades or what classes they transfer into or nothing like that. She told them that. She told them. It was her choice, and Dr. Wynn's choice, to go to the investigation. And at any point in time on that investigation, she could have pulled the plug on it, said, there's nothing here, Joanne, go back to work. Then, so we're gonna blame Joanne for exercising her rights and asking for a hearing when he says, oh, it's unheard of to ask for a hearing whenever we're asking the board to uphold the superintendent's choice of put her on paid administrative leave for non-disciplinary reasons. It's unheard of to happen. That shows you how unique she is and what she does, how passionate she is and what she does. You're looking at an award-winning teacher, an award-winning mathematician who spoke to the legislature yesterday. We have been waiting for our opportunity to have this public forum to show that there's nothing here for her to be, she shouldn't have never been put on legal absence. For her, that is punishment because she wasn't able to do her job. She wasn't able to attend math day. She wasn't able to complete her duties. And now coming out and asking for another 30 days. It blows my mind. Why? Why at the end of that first investigation, totally after that report came out, we don't see, we have no idea what it is. Supposedly it's in minutes, but all that's been kept continuous. I can only surmise. I mean, I can only show you the timeline and what it boils down to. Exactly what I'm saying. We've shown with evidence today, that's what it's become. And we've spent $50,000, almost half of what it takes to pay her to spend that money, more than what it would cost to hire a teacher. And we got rid of the teacher at the high school, I guess, social studies thing or something like that. I don't keep up with that. That's just what I'm told. Or we could have at least used that $50,000 to fix the damn driveway out here so my teeth don't drive every time I drive down. I mean, the money could have been used in a lot better places. Yeah, I know. And I'm not using smoke and mirrors. This is all just factual stuff that we can see. That investigator found nothing. He tries twisting things, and that's the reason why you need those witnesses to know. That's the reason why it's been nice to have this stuff here. And when they bring us in, trying to say, well, that she had her opportunity to tell us what her side of it was. Okay, tell us. I mean, I don't know. Hey, sit back in a little room in there and beg. Just show us what you have. Give us what you have, and we'll come back in a couple of days and answer all your questions. No. I mean, I've never felt so mistreated by another attorney, and you saw how it come out today. If this is the way that they want to treat employees, I wouldn't work here. I would. Mayor, I'm going to conclude with letting Joanne finish the rest of the closing. Thank you for the time.
Appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity to just speak just from my own context.
Ordinarily, a closing statement is presented by counsel, and that would have been testimony that you would give during work case in chief. But I will defer to how the board would like
I
to.
don't have no testimony here. Just wanted to be able to provide, been a lot of talk about the context for Dr. Williams being under a lot of pressure, and trying to keep our school system intact. And I asked my attorney if I could have the last thing to say, because I want you guys to understand that just like that attorney said, my credibility is on trial. You better believe it. And it's been on trial for 6 months now. Well, I have not been able to speak about this to anyone. And you all live where I live. And you know that without me being able to say what's actually going on here, people make up their own stories. I'm not saying that's your responsibility, but it's the context for being placed on leave when I could have had an email answered in the middle of my daughter's senior year, the only year both of my kids went to math field day. And I'm here in public not because it's in my best interest, because I'll guarantee you there are people all over the state watching that right now. And it makes me sick at my stomach, because I've never been accused of misconduct ever. My integrity is everything to me. But I'm doing this in public because we need to shine a light on how our school system's being run. I'm speaking to you not just as a 12-year employee who's worked way more than I'm paid for this system. I'm speaking to you as a parent, as a volunteer, and as an advocate for our students and our teachers. The personal toll this has taken on me these last 6 months cannot be overstated, and you can ask my family if you need evidence of that. I was targeted during the final months of my senior year and told I can't be in our schools unless it's directly related to an event that's there. I was too scared to go to basketball games to cheer for my children's friends. That's time I don't get back. But I'm speaking publicly tonight to show my kids how to stand firm in your convictions, even when it's hard. And I'm standing here for my colleagues, because teachers and staff in this district are terrified right now. They're not scared of doing the wrong thing. They're scared of doing the right thing. They're scared to advocate. They're scared to speak up. They're scared to risk their livelihoods if they do so. I'm incredibly proud of what we've built here through all of our innovation, not through top-down mandates, but by working together. At the end of COVID, our high school, our district was 22nd out of 55 districts. And in the last 5 years, we've been in the top 5 every single year. That's innovation. That's people working together. That's thinking outside the box. I've always followed, and I'll always follow all state and local policies and directives. But I'll never stop asking questions. I'll never stop innovating. And I will never, ever be bullied into silence as a parent or an employee. I'm really hopeful that your resolution today will get me back to the work I love and to prove to every employee in this district what our true priorities in Pocahontas County Schools truly are. And I really appreciate you letting me speak. Please.
Thank you.
A motion to enter executive session.
It's 4:28 p.m.